Right. Everybody hears me okay? Thumbs up. You can hear me good? All right. So good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for attending. It really means a lot. You know, if it's one person or if it's 100, it really does mean a lot that you've taken time out of your day to come listen to me speak. And I hope I have some interesting things to say that you guys will want to talk about. As hopefully everyone can see, I'm sharing my screen right now. I just have a few slides I'm going to use to talk. But, you know, I can talk forever, but I just have a few slides I want to use for reference. This deck is something I've used for other things in the past. So there's a couple slides in there I'm just going to skip over that aren't really relevant, but I do want to have this because this is one of my favorite decks to use. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to kind of give a background on myself, because I think like learning a little bit about me as a person is really important to understand my story. So I'm a farm boy from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I actually grew up on a horse farm. My mom did endurance racing, which is cross-country horse racing. So I spent most of my childhood traveling in a horse trailer from state to state all summer long, living out of a camper, living out in a tent, and just like doing a bunch of horseback riding. It was kind of cool. But you know, as a kid living out in the middle of nowhere, essentially, there wasn't a lot of kids for me to play with. There really wasn't much stuff for me to do. So video games quickly became a quick passion of mine, because if I spent all day working on the farm, shoveling horse manure or whatever it may have been, coming back home and playing video games was like my escape from all that hard work. And through video games is actually where I discovered, is actually where I started learning a lot about the military, because a lot of video games are like war themed and stuff like that. So I learned about military tactics, military units, and I became enthralled with what the military represented and what the military could do. Fast forward to 18-year-old Adam, and I'm driving down the turnpike to my first full-time job after high school. And coming down the other side of the turnpike is a full caravan of U.S. Army National Guardsmen, fully kitted out, looking to go do some training. And in that moment, I realized what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So instead of going to my full-time job and stocking shelves, I turned off the turnpike. I found the first Army recruitment center I could find, and I enlisted in the U.S. Army. 2 weeks later, I left for basic training. This was back in 2007. Fast forward again, I'm back living in Philadelphia, off active duty, and I'm looking for my next mission, the next thing I want to commit myself to. I was working for a company called Bunker Labs, which helps veterans start and grow businesses. And there's when I discovered that I wanted to get involved in one of my passions, which is gaming. And so in January of 2019, I ran my first ever esports event out of Husson College here in Philadelphia. And I had 30 kids show up with their parents and their computers and their monitors, and they all played a game called Fortnite for $300. And it was such an awesome, rewarding experience, not only to be able to do this and kind of like, you know, have an idea and actually make it come to fruition, but to be able to meet the parents, see how excited the kids were, and just have an amazing day of playing video games and having a lot of fun. And that's what really started Philly Esports. And so the company's been around for 2 years now. Obviously, we just had our 2-year anniversary, and it was absolutely it's been an absolute honor to do what I've been doing, and to continue this mission. So let me tell you a little bit more about what we're doing. This is a slide that's showing the collegiate esports growth. So before COVID, I was running in-person events, which was great, a great way to build community and get people together. But unfortunately, it's not a good business model. I started Philly Esports as a for-profit company, and so I needed to quickly realize what could I do to actually make a profit? How could I actually say that I'm making my salary off of gaming? And so I was looking at the industry as a whole, and I realized that the collegiate market is wide open. The NCAA has publicly announced that they do not want to take on esports as one of their athletics divisions that they look over. So it's literally opened up a huge opportunity for companies like mine to come in and make something happen in the esports market, especially with collegiate esports. And so you can just kind of see the growth. I think off the top of my head, there's like 6,700 colleges in the United States alone. And right now about 270 or 280 of them have collegiate esports programs. So the same as varsity sports. They get treated like athletes, they have to have the same grades, the same things, et cetera, et cetera. And so what's going to happen is that as more colleges adapt esports, and they've been doing it at a rapid pace, especially with COVID, because once all traditional sports went to the wayside, esports, competitive video gaming, is the only thing that their students were able to do because they were socially distanced, they could stay at home, and they didn't have to worry about all those other requirements. And so esports has just exploded, obviously with everyone being stuck at home, but more importantly with colleges who realized the potential not only to keep their students engaged, but also as a great recruitment tool, and colleges' bottom line is recruitment. So I decided to pivot and get into collegiate esports. And starting next week, actually on Tuesday, we have 2 leagues kicking off for 2 separate games. We have 14 teams between the two leagues with over 7 schools, and most of these schools have actually bought into both leagues, which is really exciting. So I can't wait for that to kick off on Tuesday. If you want to check that out, just go to our website, phillyesports.net. You'll see all the info there. But really excited about that because we are officially getting into this and making it happen. And I have an incredible team behind me to make that happen. So that's what we've pivoted in. So we don't do the in-person events. We don't do the monthly events. We're really focused on collegiate stuff. And we have a couple other programs that we're working on pretty intensely. Here's our logo for the Collegiate Aces series. There's a couple of the colleges on your screen that we've worked with in the past that are back now again. So just an honor to work with these amazing institutions to make this happen and to grow. And my goal here is that we will be the best collegiate esports league in the whole world. We already have international colleges wanting to get into it, and we've only just started. So that tells you the impact we're having, the reach we're getting, and how we're impressing these colleges of what we're actually delivering to them. So let me just fast forward here. So this is a great slide. I love this slide. This is a plethora of pictures from some of our past events and some of my great teammates that I've had over the last couple of years. So why is it that what we're doing makes sense? And after I go through this, and I'm going to talk about esports in general and actually get into the nitty gritty, right? So like, why is esports a thing? Why is my team the right team to do it? What is it? What are we actually doing, right? So as a gamer, as the kid that was the nerd growing up that got made fun of and was like, you're stuck in your mom's basement, all those dumb stereotypes, it's not like that anymore. There are people making more money from gaming than the most successful traditional athletes. Some of the most rich people in the world right now are gamers, or they're online content creators. So gaming is no longer just a funny little hobby that nerds do. It's a full industry making billions of dollars. And you can get involved in esports not only through playing the game itself, but through marketing, through graphics design, through video editing, through a whole plethora of other job opportunities, the same as any other competitive institution. It has now opened up a wide opportunity for so many people to get involved, and that's incredibly exciting because now a passion that was just a hobby is now literally a full-time career, and that's super exciting. And so what is it that I'm trying to do? Well, I'm 32 years old. And esports was not a thing when I was a kid, right? If it was, I probably would have never joined the Army, and I probably would have been that stereotype staying at home trying to we call it white knuckling when you're holding the controller so hard you try to get better at the game. But as an adult, I realized I was like, hey, I didn't get this opportunity, but let me build something to allow other people to pursue that dream. I know that I can build a positive environment, a trusting environment, an environment that has good intentions, an organization that's built around those ideas and around those core concepts. And so the people that I brought onto my company have been drawn in because of that, because of the mission that I've laid down for my company. We actually care about the players. We care about their mental health. We care about what it is they want to accomplish. We talk to the parents. We tell them that this isn't a bad hobby as long as it's moderated appropriately, like anything in life. You can drink too much water and kill yourself if you drink too much water, right? So anything can be done in excess, including video games. As long as you moderate it, it's fine. And there's so many positive benefits of video games if you really look into it and try to learn more about it. To give you an example, there's a game called Minecraft, which is a world where you can build things out of blocks of pretty much any material. There's a man that made a server specifically designed for autism, for kids that had autism, because he had autism and his kids did too. When he created a personal server so that kids can come join online, he got thousands of requests to join within a week. It went viral on Facebook. Now he has tens of thousands of members in his autism servers, and it's self-moderated. And he has real statistics to show that the kids that have played in this server have had better performance in school, have better speeching performance, have made lifelong friends. They treat people with more respect. They've actually been able to overcome some of the major disadvantages of autism based upon their time playing in the game and having that trusting environment. And so that's the impact that esports is having. And that's the same impact I'm trying to have by building an organization that people can trust and know, hey, if you go through Philly Esports, they're going to take care of you and they're going to set you up for success. And that's something I'm really passionate about. So that's why I know I have the best team, because they've been attracted to me and my company, not because it's just gaming, but because they see what I'm trying to do. And they're like, yes, that's the kind of thing I want to be a part of. And that's the kind of company I want to be associated with if I, have a career in esports. And so I'm going to flip to my last page here. So what else are we doing and like how are we making money? How's the company working, right? So outside of the collegiate stuff, we do some other stuff that's really exciting. We work with an organization called Endeavor. We do after-school esports programs for inner-city schools at charter schools. Endeavor and KIPP are the same institution, and we're working with them to provide this service to all their schools across the country. It's an incredibly exciting opportunity, and it's something that I'm really passionate about because this is what esports is meant to be. It's meant to be an opportunity to get kids together in a healthy environment, to do something that they love and do it in a way that's healthy, that's safe, and that's with people that actually care about what's going on. And that's something I'm super excited again. We're partnered with a Kid Again. That's a nonprofit that gives families with terminally ill family members experiences that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise. We're working with them to do the same thing. And then obviously as an Army veteran, I work very closely with the U.S. Army. We do a lot of events with them, for-hire events and other things. And we have much more in the pipeline. So a lot of my competitors know about all this stuff, and that's why I freely share it, because they don't know the other things I'm working on. I'm a very competitive person, and I'm going up against giants that have millions of dollars behind them. And it's funny that they think that I'm not going to do anything, but I'm doing more than they realize, and I'm very excited about that. So 2021 is going to be a phenomenal year for us, and we're going to be surprising a lot of people. So with all that said, just so you kind of know the background of me, I want to go through that so you all would really know who I am, what Philly Esports really is, and what we're trying to do. So at this point, what I want to say is just a couple things that what do I see esports going? Where do I think it's really going to impact the world? And how it matters to the everyday person, right? So first and foremost, collegiate esports, you're going to see a rise there just because that's where all the players are going. There is a great support system at collegiate in the college for esports, just like traditional sports. And so you're going to just see a rise there. It's super easy to set up a college esports team, and it's super easy to compete. The players don't need to travel ridiculous. They don't need a bunch of equipment except outside of the gaming hardware, and it can all be done virtually with high-speed internet, and it's just only getting better. Online gaming is just the way to be, and it's just such an easy way for colleges to promote to a new generation of students and get them interested in the programming. And because there's so many intertangled career paths through esports, we do editing, graphic design, marketing, entrepreneurship. It allows colleges to recruit for all these different majors through esports, and it's just super exciting. So you're going to see a boom in esports and collegiate esports. We're just at the precipice of it, and I can't wait to see it grow and expand. So that's very exciting. And what's really great about colleges is just the support system, right? So a lot of great gamers are really young, but when they get older, there is probably the worst ailment of gaming is the mental health ailment. You're sitting in a chair, not moving for 8 hours because you have to play consistently to stay good, because the next gamer is literally right behind you. You don't play one day, that person's already better than you because they practiced when you didn't, right? And that's what it's like at every high level competitive, no matter if it's gaming or traditional sports or whatever it might be. You always got to stay on top of your game to be the best, right? But unfortunately, staring at a screen 8 hours a day, not really interacting with other human beings, not really eating healthy because you're eating quick snacks because you have to keep playing, it does a lot of damage to your mental and physical health. But at colleges, they don't let that happen because they have teams of people ensuring that you're eating healthy, that you're working out, because you're being held to the same standard as traditional athletes. And so those kids have a better chance of playing at a higher level longer because they're developing healthy habits. That's one of the things that I try to teach the kids through our Endeavor program, is that you need to have healthy habits when you play. Make sure you have healthy snacks. Make sure when you play a couple games, you get up, you walk around, you stretch, maybe do some push-ups or some sit-ups or something like that. Keep your blood flowing. And always try to stay positive when you're playing, and know that you need to take breaks. You need to take a day off. You have to, because if you're staring at a computer screen 8 hours a day for 7 days a week, it's going to really affect your mental health, especially when you're not interacting with other human beings. Because to be a gamer, you don't need to be in an office. You don't need to do that. You just need to be at home in a dark room playing your game. And so it's super important to focus on that mental health. So collegiate esports is going to grow exponentially. The gaming is being used all the time with education. I just told you about the autism with like actual dealing with mental disabilities and physical disabilities. One of the biggest nonprofits in the country right now that I really love is the I just had them in my mind and I forgot. But they're called go-karts. So they make these video game carts that go in hospitals. You've probably seen The Rock or Gal Gadot do a commercial for them. And they do these go-karts where the kids that are terminally ill or just sick in the hospital and they're there for a couple of days have free access to video games. So it helps them, gives them something to do while they're in the hospital, which can be scary and uncomfortable, right? So that's like the kind of stuff that esports and gaming influence, the kind of influence it has on our society. And you're only going to see that grow. You're seeing it now kind of like with the gamification of like Zoom calls, the fact that we can put these really cool backgrounds and we can do all these really fun activities inside the Zoom calls. That's really exciting. You're only going to see that get more and more involved in our day-to-day activities, especially across all different organizations of work, where gamification is really going to enhance the way we work, the way we communicate. That's not traditionally esports, but it is part of that whole game environment. I'm sure most of you have a cell phone, an iPhone, and I'm sure you play a game on your phone. If you play a video game on your cell phone, you're a gamer. You may not think you're a gamer, but you're a gamer because you play a game on your phone. Mobile gaming is absolutely exploding. It's probably going to be the biggest source of esports and video games probably for the rest of forever, because cell phones are so percolated through our world. They're so cheap. They're so easy, they're so accessible, and the games that are developed run very well on them. So mobile esports is exploding. You're going to see more of that. And again, almost everybody has a smartphone, and pretty much every game that's developed for smartphones can be played on a smartphone. It's pretty incredible. So just that alone is really expanding gaming and esports, and you're getting people from all walks of life now engaging. What's also really exciting about esports is that traditionally, esports or gaming has always been related to the skill set of quick reaction time and mental acuity. But there's a lot of games that don't require this skill set. For instance, there's a lot of trading card games that don't rely on your quick actions, but rely on your mental capacity. So what that does is that these kind of games, and there's other games that are similar that don't require that reaction time, open up esports to pretty much every generation. If you're smart enough to understand the game and you put enough time into it, you can become a professional. You're going to see people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s playing professional gaming within the next few decades. Hasn't happened yet because it hasn't really caught up in our country. But to give you an example, in South Korea, where esports is the national sport, there are gamers in their 40s and 50s that play at a national level with certain games that don't require that reaction time, because it's all about mental capacity and just the strategy and understanding the game, right? So it's really exciting to see that gaming is now bridging generational gaps, where traditional sports never did that, because once you got up to a certain age, you just couldn't perform because there were the requirements, right? So that's really exciting to see that. It's changing our culture in a lot of ways. But what's super important is that organizations that are pushing the industry forward need to be doing it in the right way and sending a positive message and setting up healthy habits, making sure that everyone who's playing of any age has healthy habits and does it the right way. I think gaming is affecting bullying in a great way. So obviously bullying is something that's never going to go away. It's always there online. It's even worse because it's anonymous. But there's organizations that are literally developing artificial intelligence technologies to identify when someone's being bullied, and they can send alerts to game developers, to parents, and to anyone else that's connected to the system. There's technologies like that being invented, being set out, and what's going to end up happening is the consoles you buy are going to have that built in. So what's really great about that is it's now preventing people from bullying each other, and the online environment is going to begin becoming more healthy, and then the conversations will begin to become more healthy as well. Literally changing all of the negative stereotypes of gaming through esports, through gaming, and it's really exciting to see that. So these are just some examples that I wanted to share. I'm kind of spitballing off the top of my head. There's many, many more examples I could probably pull from. But like I said, I want to spend the time with you all to answer your questions. I want to know what you guys want to know about esports, what you want to know about the industry. That's what's important. I'm not the master. My opinion or my perspective isn't always correct, but I love to talk about it. I love to hear different perspectives. And I love to know what people are thinking about it, because I want people to have a positive outlook on esports. And obviously, I want to be a leader in the space in a good way. I want to make sure that everyone knows that everything I'm doing is for the benefit of everyone that's involved in my company. That's super important to me. That's why I do this, because I want to give kids an opportunity that I didn't have when I was younger, and do it in the right way in a safe environment. So I'm going to stop talking. Thank you for listening, man. I really appreciate it. And I'm super excited to answer any questions you have, and let's have a conversation.
Thank you for that, Adam. That was awesome. I have a question. I know you're talking a lot about like maybe gaming not being so like physically healthy, and you're trying to focus on the health of your athletes. But I have a family member who is like has a lot of social anxiety and like is a high level functioning on the spectrum person, and his doctor actually prescribed video games as like a way to interact with people. So I was just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Absolutely. So that ties directly with that autism example I gave you with the Minecraft server that's only for kids with autism. They have to apply, go through a screening process before they're allowed to play. So I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all of the real deep medical reasons for this, but what I do know is that video games stimulate different parts of the brain where other activities don't, right? And so what happens is that when that part of the brain is stimulated, it actually nullifies the effects of the disabilities that that person experiences. So I do know that that is part of it. I know there's a lot more to it, but that's part of the reason. I know that in boys in particular, like why are boys always so attracted to video games? It's because it stimulates that part of the brain the same way that athletics do, that like fighting does, you know, the traditional boy stuff. So video games stimulate the parts of the brain that allows you to focus on something and kind of dilutes the effects of the other ailments that that person is experiencing. Additionally, when you're playing video games, you're socializing in a way where it's not so much forced, because like it can be forced, right? Like you can obviously put the headset on and like make sure you talk to people, but some video games require communication with your teammates to even play the game in the first place. Like you can't play it without communicating. And so that's another part of it. So it allows them to have natural conversation, so that they can practice it and get over those anxieties or those issues they're having. And also it's when you're focused on the game, the communication doesn't seem the same as if you were in person, right? So like if I'm playing a game and I say, hey, there's a guy over there, that's not the same as me sitting in front of you across from a table and having a conversation about something else. It forces you to communicate in a way that's almost not real, because you're not really talking about anything real. You're just talking about what's happening in the game. And then when the game's over, that's when some of that natural discourse starts to happen. Talking about, oh, that was a great kill. That was a great strategy. And that's kind of where that communication happens. So that's my perspective on it. But again, I'm not a medical expert, so I wish I could say more. But I do know that video games provides an environment that is almost not realistic. So it allows those types of people to communicate more easily, because the pressure of society isn't really there, or just some of the more traditional triggers that makes it harder for them in the real world don't exist in gaming. So that's my perspective on it. I hope that's a good answer. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, definitely.
I also have a question. So first of all, this was really wonderful, and esports is something that it's been really exciting to learn about over the past month. And I was just looking, I graduated from University of Delaware, and just 2 years after I graduated, now they have an entire esports like stadium. I was like, where, because it used to be, the Hen Lounge, and it was like a couple of ping pong tables, and now it's this like state of the art. So it's just, and I'm sure it's for recruiting people. See Gary in the chat, roll hands. So it really is crazy to see how fast that it's happening. I have a couple questions, but one I wanted to start with is in terms of access. So I know that your focus is primarily on college students. But I'm curious about kind of that pipeline prior to that, because at least to my knowledge that a lot of these, like, I don't know what consoles are being used, but like, I know that like an Xbox or whatever people are using can be very expensive. And so how to make this an accessible sport, because obviously in many ways it is accessible because you can do it anywhere and be a differently abled person and still participate. But like financially, like how does that work?
Right. No, that's a really good point. So the first thing I'd say is cell phones, right? If they can't get a console, the cell phone is the next big thing. And cell phones are only a couple $100s, and even like some of the lower tier cell phones can play almost every game that's been developed for mobile, right? On phones, pretty much every major title that's ever come out, any game you think of off the top of your head exists on the phone. So to give you an example, for our Endeavor program with the charter kids here in Philadelphia, they play Mario Kart on their phone. I'm sure most of you have played Mario Kart or seen it at some point in your life. It's a great game. It's a fun party game. It's just an easy, family-friendly game. You're racing around, shooting shells at each other. Like, it's fun. So the fact that we were able to do that on cell phones, in 2020 was incredibly exciting, because it was accessible. All the kids had phones, and it was a game that everyone knows and likes and is family friendly. So I'd say the first thing is that the barrier into esports isn't that high, because if you literally can't get anything else, you could probably get your hands on a cell phone that can play some of those games. It's not the same as a console, but it's still really close, and there's a huge competitive environment for the mobile games as well as the traditional console games. Outside of that, there's a lot of places you can rent consoles on a monthly basis. There's people that sell, they sell older versions of the consoles online. They're relatively cheap. Getting your hands on an older generation console is very, very easy. It may not be the newest and greatest PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X or whatever it's called, the newest one. But you can still play some of the biggest titles now on a console that's only a couple $100s, and you're not spending $500-600 on a brand new one. Additionally, gaming on a computer is always the preferred version, because through a computer you have the highest frame rates on a screen, which means that your reaction times are better. That's for like the faster shooter games. Computer hardware is becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. You can buy a computer for $500 that's more powerful than the best console you can buy. It's comparable. Like, you can throw pieces away, and I won't get super technical with you guys. But when you really break it down, the computer is going to win 9 times out of 10, because it's just going to give you better performance over time with whatever game you're trying to play, which gives you a better competitive edge, which makes you more likely to win and succeed and all that kind of stuff, right? So it is very easy. And the other thing, the last thing I would say is, obviously before COVID, I should have brought this up earlier, and I'm sorry I didn't. LAN centers are exploding. They are absolutely exploding all across the world. So LAN centers were a big thing before people had high-speed internet at home. And then once everyone got high-speed internet at home in like the early 2000s, LAN centers just disappeared, right? But now they're coming back. So why are they coming back? Because of esports, because of gaming. So people that don't have access to high-speed internet, or don't have access to a gaming console, or don't have access to a gaming PC, well, now they can go to their local LAN center, pay $10, and they can play all night. And one of my biggest competitors, Nerd Street Gamers, they've partnered with 5 and Below, and they're building LAN centers all across the United States with every 5 and Below. Maybe not every single one, but a lot of them, right? So even they know that that's a huge opportunity and a huge market. So that's really, at the end of the, if you have nothing else, you have nowhere else to go, LAN centers are like the chance for you to get your hands on a high-end console or a high-end computer so you can play and practice. And one of the things I'm really passionate about is, through my after-school program, is be able to provide more esports to more kids across the country that don't have access to any of that stuff. And if they can do it through me, then I absolutely want to do it. So.
Can we talk about that for a second? Sorry, Emily.
No, I was just saying thanks.
Yeah. So as you kind of develop these programs for younger generation, the middle school age kids, are you working with them on hardware and software development and some of the other pieces, or is it like purely gaming kind of?
Sure. So right now, the only thing that I'm providing is the services to organize and manage events. I'm trying to slowly build out my network of connections. I know I'm a hardware manufacturer here in Philadelphia, and I know a couple of other companies. I'm trying to build up my network. But one of the strong entrepreneurial rules is, like, get good at one thing first before you do anything else. So I'm really trying to get good at the collegiate stuff and the after school programming before I start offering more services. The company needs to become profitable, all that great stuff, hire more people. So I definitely want to do those things. I want to be able to provide more hardware, more programming, more opportunities for the younger generation to get involved in gaming in a more intimate way than just playing. I absolutely want to do that, but I can't do that until I've established a business that's successful, that can move on into the future. And we're definitely there. We're definitely getting there. It's just, unfortunately, I work a full-time job and I do this on the side. So, it's a lot of work and it's a slow-moving train, but we're getting there. So the answer to your question obviously is no, but we are absolutely planning on doing that in the future once we have more resources, and we can give more attention to the kids so they can do those things.
Are you still working with Bunker Labs, or are you?
So I don't work for Bunker Labs anymore, but I'm still very much connected into that community. I still help out when I can. I go to the virtual events when I can, and I'm still very much plugged into that community to give feedback to newer entrepreneurs coming through from all the lessons I've learned.
Excellent. Yeah.
I have another question about, because I know that you were talking about just like the types of games that there are, that there's these like shooting games and Fortnite, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on the role of violence in video games. Like, obviously, like something like Minecraft isn't, I don't think you just build fun things, but I know that a good portion of these competitive, or whichever ones are being done on a competitive scale, but I know that a fair amount are violent, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on that as a whole, or if student is interested in getting into that, but their parents are hesitant because of the violence, what you would kind of say in response to that?
Absolutely. So the first thing I'd say is it depends on your definition of violence, right? So if you think playing a game where you're shooting any kind of gun is violent, well, then okay, that's violent to you, right? So there's a couple things to talk about with this in particular, right? So there are a lot of video games that are absolutely violent, right? I mean, you can just think of like Mortal Kombat, right? It's a fighting game, and like the characters in the game can rip each other's heads off and delimb. Like that's a violent game for sure. But let's talk about a very common game, Call of Duty, right? Call of Duty is a militarized game where you run around with modern weapons, you shoot other people, and I mean, it's as realistic as they can possibly make it, right? Sometimes there's blood splatter, but for the most part, you know, the most violent thing in that game is the fact that you're shooting other human beings running around and there's some blood splatter, but like the bodies don't explode or anything like that. So it really comes down to what you define as violent, right? When I look at that and say it's violent, I say objectively, yeah, it's violent, but you know, it just depends on what severity are you uncomfortable with it. So for me, when I do my tournaments, or like for the 2 leagues I've come up, we're doing Rocket League and Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. Both of those games are non-violent. I purposely choose those kind of games because I don't want that to even be a question, right? But if you're looking at like other shooter games, there's other shooter games called like Overwatch and Valorant that are relatively new. And those games are also first-person shooter games, but there's no blood, there's no gore, there's no anything like that, right? When your character dies, it just falls over or like goes up in the air a little bit or something like that. There's no gore or violence there. So like where's the line there and say, okay, well, this is violent because you're still shooting other characters. It's hard to say. So I don't think that's violent. I don't think shooters are violent. I think violence comes down to when there's gore, when there's blood, when you're ripping things apart, and it's like it gets really graphic. That's what I think is violent, where it's really just like amplifying that kind of action. And if a parent came to me and is like, listen, I don't want my kid to go to esports because I don't want them playing this game. Well, my response to them would be, there's a plethora of other games. Like, would there be another game that's similar that they would be okay with? Let me show you this game. This is Valorant. It's a shooter game, but there's no blood, there's no gore, there's no language, you know, compared to Call of Duty where like some of the characters curse and stuff like that. And obviously I can make comparisons to like, oh, well, don't you let your kids do this and not this and all that kind of stuff. And maybe I could talk them out of it, but you know, it really comes down to what you consider violent. I don't think games like Overwatch and Valorant are violent because there's no blood, there's no gore. You are shooting other characters, but when you kill them, nothing happens. They just fall over or whatever, or like disappear, which is kind of how it is. So it's really tough to say because it all comes down to your personal, personal opinion about what you think is violent and what you don't like. So I guess that's what I would say. I don't know if that's a good answer or not. It's definitely a hard topic to talk about because I haven't really run into it, to be honest with you. I haven't really had anyone come to me and was like adamant about something. But for me, I do try to focus in more on the non-violent games just because they're just fun for everybody and everyone can understand them a little better too, which is good.
Thank you. Yeah, when I was younger, I would play Tony Hawk Pro Skater 8. And I remember that my mom made me turn off the blood when he fell. So, like, that was my level of violence acceptance in my house. But
yeah. I feel like this one thing that kind of like people always talk about with esports, like professional esports, is this swatting.
Say it again?
Well, like when people call SWAT teams to come to people's
swatting. Yes, that's a streaming thing. Yes.
Oh, okay. Is that what that is? I was just wondering, I mean, do you ever encounter any kind of behavior like that in college esports?
No. So I'm very thankful I haven't run into that because that's actually a very it's illegal. It's a huge illegal activity because what you're doing is you're calling the police and you're saying that there's someone with guns or drugs or bombs or whatever just to get a militarized police force to show up at their house while they're live on the camera, just so that the people watching can see it. It's very illegal. It is. I don't think it's happening as much now because the police are aware of it and they can trace that really well, and the person that calls can get in a lot of trouble. But it is a thing. It was a thing for a while, and it was mostly based around really popular streamers that would broadcast their games online, have like hundreds or thousands of people watching. Someone would figure out where that person lives, and they'd call the local police station and get them to show up saying, oh, I know this guy at this address has drugs or has guns or whatever. and they would show up on live stream, and it would be a funny joke and a highlight clip for YouTube. But that has not happened in collegiate esports. One of the reasons why that wouldn't happen is because when we're broadcasting our matches, you don't see the webcams of the gamers, right? Because they're usually all in different areas, and we'd have a bunch of webcams that would look kind of silly. So you don't really, so you wouldn't see that. So anyone watching wouldn't know where the players live. They wouldn't know, all that kind of stuff. So there'd be no attempt to do that, because the whole point of swatting is just for the spectacle, because thousands of people are watching and they're going to see that and go, oh my God, and it's going to be a big story. So that's the only reason why that happens. And it's definitely slowed down a bit, which is good. But no, I haven't seen it in collegiate esports, which I'm thankful for. I don't want that to happen. So.
Definitely.
So are your tournaments mostly like regional to the Philadelphia area now? Or, I mean, you said you're having international schools. So I full disclosure, I'm in Rhode Island, and we're trying to build our esports ecosystem through, a combined effort to get the kind of the training programs up and running at the middle school and high school level, and then the collegiate sports, and then the program is actually for development and right. Game developing. And so like, are you seeing a lot of expansion beyond kind of your region now, or like,
yeah,
it's growing?
Absolutely. So obviously when I first started, I was just doing in-person tournaments here in Philadelphia at local colleges. And so obviously my community was hyper-focused in this area. My community is still kind of hyper-focused in that way, but because of our collegiate esports, it's definitely expanding way beyond this area. We still have a lot of local colleges, because as you can see, the colleges on my screen are some that we've worked with already, and they're all pretty local. But our goal is to be the #1 collegiate esports league in the whole country. And we've talked to every single college right now that has an esports program, knows who we are and knows that we're going to be here and knows what we're offering. So I'm very confident that we're going to expand to the point where the whole country is going to know who we are, and they're all going to want to be involved. Just because of just what we're doing. We're giving these colleges something no one else has given them. We're fixing all the problems that all the other collegiate leagues have. And we care about the partnerships we have. We listen to them. We actually take their feedback and make it happen, right? We actually build that relationship, which really matters to them. Where the bigger entities that have way more money than us, they just open it up to everybody and say, hey, everybody can join. And then there's no special relationship there. They might give out more money or whatever it might be, but they don't build true relationships with the colleges. And so So it is a slow growth for us, which obviously isn't the best thing, because you want to have fast growth, because that's exciting and that's what gets you more eyes on your stuff. But we're definitely getting out of the Philadelphia market. I love my brand. A lot of people think that the brand is a hindrance because it's Philly, but I mean, you could argue that. I mean, look at every professional sports team. Tons of people love sports teams from other cities, from other places, and it has nothing to do with them living there. And I think esports is the same way. And I think people can love Philly esports. They can love the Aces series because it's about gaming. It's not so much about where they're physically located. And video games happen all over, right? So the answer is yeah. Our community right now is hyper localized, but we're expanding through the Collegiate League. We're expanding through KIP, where we're going to meet kids from all over the United States, and we're talking to a lot of potential international partners, which we're very excited about. So we're definitely going to get there, and we're definitely going to grow. It's just a slow growth. So.
Yeah. And what about like the kind of the diversity of your teams a little bit? Like, are you seeing an equal balance of men and women and
Right. So for right now, for the rosters of the colleges, it is mostly male. I say it's 90% male. And I think that's just because, I mean, I have my own personal opinions. I don't know. There's probably are a lot of facts, but, video games just draw more men than women on average. But I do think that more opportunities are opening up for female gamers. I stress it very hard when I talk to colleges, like, hey, are you guys doing anything to recruit more female gamers to make them feel that they're welcome and that they can actually come do it? Not that they don't feel like they can, but just letting them know that the opportunity is there. I definitely think that as gaming becomes more accepted in our society, because I still think there's stigmas attached to it and all this kind of stuff. I think once it becomes more accepted and it's more mainstream, like more than it already is, you're going to see a boom in female gamers, especially with the newer generations coming up. But gaming has always just been a male-dominated thing, and it probably will be for a while. But as leaders in the space, it is our duty to make sure that everyone has a fair opportunity to play, to compete, and that they know that the opportunity is there for them. And something that I'm very passionate about is as my organization grows and I have more resources to dedicate to more endeavors, I'm going to make sure that I focus on leveling out the playing field as best I can and getting more people involved, because I do believe that that's important. And what's great about video games is because it's not necessarily hyper focused on your physical attributes, you can have teams, you can have co-ed teams in every single game. And that's super exciting. I think one of the biggest esports teams just released this week for the game Valorant. They have 3 girls and it's 3 and 3. Three girls and 3 guys, and that's super cool to see. And they're a professional team, the highest level they can go. So I'm really excited about that. But it is something that I'm definitely going to push on harder, as you know, within my own organization once we have more resources to do so. But you know, that's a slow moving train too. But I think it's going to get there for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely a lot of female pro gamers. It's just getting that feeder into
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, the feeder's huge, and that's what I'm doing with Endeavor. Most of the gamers we had I think we had at least 12 girls in our program the first time, and that was really exciting to see. And they were really good. They were really good at Mario Kart. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Is there like a national organization for, and I'm sorry if you mentioned, because like I know like with like the NFL or MLB, like is there, I'm just like curious like how the structure of it works in terms of like forming teams and how that works, because it seems so individual. So how do people connect with each other and
so all right, so I have to explain a couple things. So with esports, that's different from traditional sports, is that nobody owns baseball, nobody owns football, right? It is just a sport that exists, and then like people can play it, right? In gaming, unfortunately, people own Fortnite, they own Rocket League, they own Call of Duty, right? So the developers, they own the product of the game, right? So when you think about like who's like the overarching like entities, well, there isn't any overarching entity. There are tons of nonprofit organizations and organizations coming together to try to merge as many different people together so they can collaborate and network. But there isn't one overarching umbrella. So for instance, within Collegiate Esports, there's about 8 different organizations that run Collegiate Esports right now. And we're all battling to be number 1. And I know that we will be number 1. We will be the number 1 esports league. And hopefully we can help, you know, like kind of just design the best collegiate esports league possible for all the colleges. But there isn't one entity that owns that. For the professional teams, those are just individual brands, right? Think about Nike or Adidas. It's the same kind of premise where they build a brand and then they go out and find really good players. And then those players play in tournaments and events and then help spread the brand and spread the message of what they're trying to do. There's no overarching entity that looks over all of them. There's definitely definitely just organizations that people buy into to try to do that. But because it's so segmented in so many different ways, there's just a lot of different organizations that exist. Some of them are great, some of them not so much. It just comes down to what you value and what matters to you. There's like an organization called the Esports Trade Organization that's all about networking and helping companies connect and stuff like that. They're great, but you know, there's a bunch of others that do the same thing. So esports is a little weird like that, but you will see it starting to come together more and more as more bigger brands buy smaller brands and stuff like that. So
cool. Also, another question I have, speaking as someone who never moved past the GameCube from 2001, is there, like, obviously a lot of this, it seems all very cutting edge, but is there a market for vintage or retro gaming?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's cool.
The number 1 reason why is because of speedrunning. So speedrunning is not only a huge fundraiser endeavor, but it's also a way to keep old games new, right? So the speedrunning community has 2 things. One, they make buku bucks for nonprofits every year. Every year they make millions of dollars running events online where people come and just speedrun games. It is an esports in and of itself. It's really cool. And there are online leaderboards. I've even done it for like old N64 games that I was passionate about. I was like, I can do this. I can be the fastest. And I pulled out my N64 from my basement. I plugged it in and I tried to get the best time. So there absolutely is a market for that. It's never going to be as big as like the newest, latest and greatest games and stuff like that. But there is always going to be a niche community that's passionate about speedrunning, passionate about competing with each other. And so that'll always be there, but it won't, I don't know if it'll ever be as big as, you know, Call of Duty or something like that. That's like pretty much everywhere. But it will always be there. It will always exist. And the speedrunning community is just a great community, just for the simple fact that they raise tons of money for cancer treatments and all that kind of great stuff. So
I'm glad there's that little bit of hope that I can become, you know, a world-renowned gamer with my 20.
You have to start practicing now, though.
Yeah. On my GameCube. Yeah, any other, I'm all out of questions. I don't know if anyone else has additional questions for Adam. No, yeah, I mean, Adam, it's been super thorough, and your enthusiasm is like tangible. So I really appreciate what you've brought to us tonight.
absolutely. Thank you.
So yeah, so if there are no more questions, I mean, Adam, are you comfortable wrapping it up for the night?
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, I mean, I'm again, thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to me. I mean, I know it's you never know what you're going to get with these things. So, but I think at the end of the day, I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I'm always available for any questions. Amy, you said you're working on a project right now. If there's anything I can do to help, if there's anyone I know in my network, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn.
I was going to say, I found you on LinkedIn, so I'm going to connect now.
Okay, definitely do. If there's anything you need, you let me know, and I'll get you whatever I have in my network.
Definitely. Our next event in Rhode Island is February 25th.
Okay.
So I'll try to connect before then.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So really the last statement I'll say with all this, it's the same thing that I was saying before, is the whole reason why I started doing this was because, you know, this didn't exist when I was a kid, right? Esports wasn't a thing, and now it is. And I'm older. I can't be a pro gamer, whatever that is. So I want to be able to provide the environment for other people to pursue that and be able to do it in a safe environment, in a trusting environment. And I'm hoping I can build, or I will build a profitable company where I can hire great individuals that can, you know, sustain themselves on esports and gaming. And I think that's incredibly rewarding. It's something that's been a huge passion of mine my whole life. And I'm really looking forward to that day where, you know, I can look around my office of people and you know, I'm sitting there in my sweatpants and hoodie, and I'm like, all right, I made it. They're all getting paid. I'm getting paid, and we're playing video games. This is pretty cool. And I'm really looking forward to that day. And seeing kids be able to pursue their dreams to become pro gamers or whatever it is through us, in whatever way that is, through working or playing or whatever other avenues might exist at that point. So that's really it for me. I just want to be a positive leader. I want to do the right thing. I want to see people succeed. And you know, I want to have a good business that I can hire people. And I think that'd be really, really cool. So that's really it. But if anybody has anything else they want to connect me with, you can. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it, brother. Nice message. You know, I'm on LinkedIn, just Adam Nelson. You can find me all across social. Just type my name in. You can find articles with my stuff linked all over the place. I'm happy to connect. I'm happy to help you grow your network in any way I can. And that's it. That's all I got.